We are now live. Like 12 minutes and 50 seconds in. This is going to be fun.
Okay, well.
Did anybody turn off their recorders before we started the second
Yeah, I
time?
did.
You did?
I did too.
Yeah.
So everybody did but me. Okay. At least that way I know who I have to look for. Okay. 3, 2, 1, action.
This is Literary Roadhouse. One short story once a week. I'm Anais.
I'm Maya.
I'm Gerald.
I'm Kenechi.
Oh my god! Okay, let's start over. This is just ridiculous. I'm having worse comedy of errors here. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
This is Literary Roadhouse. One short story once a week. I'm Anais.
And I'm
Go on,
Kenechi.
Maya.
Wait, you were supposed to say I'm Gerald.
I thought you were going for. Oh, jeez. It's a comedy of errors.
This is why people wait for the live version, because the live version's ridiculous.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, right.
Okay.
So you. What's the order?
Okay. Normally we go, I'm Maya, I'm Gerald, I'm Anais. So, since it's her, although I say I'm Maya, I'm Gerald, and I'm Kenechi. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. We're just replacing that one rather than.
Am I doing the whole thing, or am I just saying my name?
No, do the whole thing. It'll make it easier when I have to edit this mess. It's already going to be a mess. I'm going to be up until like 5 a.m.
Okay. This is Literary Roadhouse. One short story once a week. I'm Anais.
I'm Maya.
I'm Gerald.
I'm Kenechi.
On today's show, we are discussing The Hasselblad by Joeclyn Johnson. But before we get into that discussion, we wanted to read some of those amazing iTunes reviews.
That would be my cue. We've been getting some really, really awesome reviews, both on iTunes and also by email. And so I wanted to read one today. This one comes from Rushwood. And Rushwood says, I thoroughly enjoyed the spirited discussion. At last, a forum for intelligent talk about real literature. But when am I going to find time to listen to all this good stuff? Even though I am late, I would give The Circular Ruins a 5. The task of molding the incoherent and dizzying stuff that dreams are made of is the most difficult work that man can undertake. He gave us 5 stars.
Thank you.
I was really stoked when I read that. And I will be reading one next week as well, and if people would like to hear their reviews, go over to iTunes and leave a review. But I'd also like to say that we did get an email, and I wanted to address this topic regarding our language, because we all have potty mouths. And this is why we are rated PG-13. Now, because I know in advance that we all have a tendency to have a little bit of potty mouth, except for Gerald, because he's got a halo above his head and he's perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Because of that, I have the podcast set as for mature audiences, but I do go in each week and rate the individual episodes. And so if you are a person with sensitive ears who is concerned about the language, you can actually look at iTunes and it will tell you which episodes are clean and which ones are explicit.
Okay, are we ready for the story? All right. So I'm going to give a summary of the story. If you haven't read the story yet, this is when you turn off the podcast, read the story, and then come back because there will be spoilers. So we read The Hasselblad by Joeclyn Johnson. The story takes place in May 1986. A teenage girl named Jody has run away from her home in California. She's hitchhiking across the country to Virginia to find her girlfriend, Aisha, who was sent away to her uncle's house after Aisha's mother walked in on Jody and Aisha kissing. In Colorado, Jody gets picked up by Renee, an attractive blonde teenager from a wealthy family. Renee invites Jody to lunch at the local country club, as rich people do. Not that Jody's not rich. But then after that, the girls go drink at a secret lookout point, and then they go to Renee's home, where Jody figures out that Renee was recently assaulted by a boyfriend and debates comforting her. All right, what did everyone think of the story? We can start with
Who wants to go
Maya.
first?
You're excited. Maya, your face just went.
I'll go
I love
first.
this part of the episode. I just can't wait to see what everyone thinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually really liked this story. I thought it was really good. Yeah, I thought it was good. I didn't like the main character, Jodie. Jodie. I didn't like Jodie, but I liked the story and I liked how, like from the beginning, I don't know, it's like we presented with Jodie as the main character, but she kind of, I don't know, I just disliked her from the start. And like all of her reactions to Renee, I was just like, why is she being like this? And then I kind of like started like Renee, and then you kind of did get the impression from early on in the story, Renee was looking for love or looking for some kind of affection, and she didn't have any in her life, and I thought that was really good the way it came out. And then at the end, you kind of found out why she was like that way, so it's cool.
For me, I was really torn on it. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the language, though there were parts I felt maybe were overwritten a little bit. And I was enjoying the story, but I felt like it didn't quite hit the mark for me, and I'm not exactly sure why. Because I liked the story, and some of the language was absolutely beautiful, but there was something missing for me, and I'm looking forward to unpacking that a little bit during this discussion, because I can't quite put my finger on it.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. I think it was I liked most of the language. I liked most of the writing. I didn't think it was overwritten. I thought the parts that could have been overwritten or could have been deemed to have been overwritten added sort of extra depth and flavour and colour to the story. So I always quite enjoy that, but that's obviously personal preference. For me, I thought the story was a bit simplistic, a bit sort of a little bit cliched perhaps, but I certainly enjoyed it. So that's my sort of summary.
It's funny to hear Kenechi say that he liked Renee a little bit more than Jodie, because Renee kind of, you're saying why would Jodie react that way to Renee? I'm like, because Renee's a creeper. Like, I understand she's needy and she's hurting, but like, for me, I guess overall I like the story in terms of the themes that it's exploring. It's exploring, teenage girls' adolescence and sexuality. But Renee, for me, the characterization of her, even though I understood her motives and why she's doing what she's doing, the way she went about doing it felt a little bit off to me. I felt like her dialogue, maybe I've just never seen someone who is kind of, the way that she approached the situation, I just wasn't convinced because I haven't seen someone who behaves that way. And when it comes to the language, I agree a little bit with Maya. There were some parts, I don't know if overwritten is the right word, but it was almost like, oh, I see what you did there. But as soon as I'm thinking about it in a meta way, I'm being taken out of the story. But there were some moments where I thought there were some very good images, and that I thought the author pulled that off really well.
Yeah, I it's interesting you said that about Renee, because I totally, I like the Renee character. Yeah. I've known a lot of women, like even where I'm at right now, there's like a stereotype of the type of girl that's from here, from the hill. And, you get down in LA, there's a very similar stereotype. And at first, like, I got her right away, and I knew something was wrong because I understood that type of woman. And the fact that she was reacting to things the way she was, I sensed that there was something going on with her. Either she was curious about girls and she had never had the opportunity, or she was needy in some way, but there was something going up with her. And so that allowed me to give her more leeway. But I totally understood why Jodie was responding to her the way she was, because while she was a teenager, girls like that don't look like teenagers. You're talking about some 18-year-old girl that probably looks like a 30-year-old Marin housewife, and who's coming on a little strong and who's being a little creepy, And so, yeah, I totally got that.
Yeah, and I felt like...
My thing was, No, I was going to say, like, during the story, after Renee's giving Jodie a lift, and then she's taking Jodie to dinner, then Jodie's thinking about Renee, and she's thinking in her head, oh, I'm going to ask her for some money or something like that, or I'm going to ask her to stay at her place. And it was kind of like, at the same time she was thinking she was going to ask her for things, she was like thinking, I don't really like this girl. And so I just kind of got like a negative impression of Jodie from that, because like, be one way or the other, don't just use her for her money. And it's kind of like, I think that was the whole theme of the story, because it was as if Jodie is suffering because she's in love or she loves someone, whereas Renee's suffering because she doesn't have any love. She has a lack of love. And it was interesting, especially the point where they were sitting on that lookout point, and they were both having their own conversations, and it was like they're both dealing with the exact same, well, not the same thing, but the same kind of thing, but like from different sides of it. And it was kind of like, I don't know, I just thought Jodie was like really unsympathetic.
Yeah. I think the way I saw it, rather than, and I totally see what you mean about one having love and one like dealing with the negative effects. For me, the dichotomy was one was needy and one had everything that she needed, but was even more needy. So while Jodie, she didn't have a home, she was living on the streets, which is why she would act that way. When you live on the streets, even if you don't necessarily like somebody, you still have certain needs that need to be met, and it's an opportunity for you to say, hey, do you have $5? And so here's this girl who is quote unquote on the outside needy, but inside she's not needy. She has love. She has like a sense of self. Whereas this other girl on the outside, she has everything that, she could possibly need. And on the inside, she's the one who's really needy. And for me, it was this yin and yang of need and fulfillment. And that was really the core of the story. And that's part of the story that I really enjoyed. I liked how that closed a loop at the end. And I really appreciated that.
But don't you think that Renee was a little bit of a stereotype? She had access to a Porsche, her dad's credit card. She bought all these clothes and went for dinner at the golf club, and I was just thinking, to me, she was very two-dimensional. I didn't see anything in her at all. I just thought she was just this walking credit card, really. That's what I thought.
Totally. And girls like that can seem like that on the surface. They can totally seem like just two-dimensional airheads. But I felt like towards the last third, when you start to kind of get a sense of the chip of the veneer and her makeup's coming off, you can kind of get a hint that there's a real person in there. I think it could have been done a little more strongly. I don't think she was drawn as well, but I liked the fact that she was being unveiled slowly.
Yeah, I'd agree that I like that she was, it's sort of like, it's almost like I kind of like the subtext of it. I feel like right away we all picked up that Renee, something's going on with her. She's not okay. And I feel like the reason why she latched onto Jodie so quickly is because, yes, she's needy, she's desperate. And I think she sees in Jodie, because I don't know that I agree that Jodie necessarily feels as fulfilled internally, because, I mean, she is running across the country, left her home because she's been separated from the girl that she loves. So she's carrying some baggage at that moment as well, very different from what Renee is carrying. And I think Renee sees in her a sort of unspoken, that baggage as well, a little bit of like, we both have something going on. I don't know what that is. And I think it makes her feel kind of like she can identify with Jodie a little bit. And also Jodie's another teenage girl. She's also non-threatening. It's somebody that you can sort of impose your will on and say, now we're going to go to the country club, now we're going to go drinking, and claim what you need from them. I just felt that the way that she went about getting it, I'm like, who behaves this way? Like, somebody old enough to drive a Porsche on their own doesn't just lean on a stranger to adjust their sandal at a country club. Like, that seems very kind of like a bit too much. Because if I was Jodie, I don't like being touched in general by people I don't know. Like, I am not a touchy-feely person. So for me, as soon as she leans at her, my alarm bells went off, and I'm not even Jodie. I probably would have been like, okay,
totally.
Bye.
Totally, yeah, the alarm bells went off, but it didn't make it less real for me. You've never known anybody like that before?
A complete stranger? I've had friends that I've known for months, and the first time they touch me, I still notice it. Like, what? So I'm kind of like, I think a little extreme on that level. But
because to me that was a very Southern California, like, come on. That was her hinting.
I mean, maybe I'm just very kind of like New York Metro, like, why are you touching me? You know, a little bit
Yeah,
of
space.
No, I think that's really interesting because that's something that wouldn't have occurred to me because that to me felt really natural, and it would not have occurred to me to be odd, and I find it interesting that for you that was very odd to you.
Yeah, because they don't know each other at all. So it's
No,
just like,
but after what she went through, she has like when she first picks Jody up, what does she say? I thought you were a boy. Okay. The way she's
that what she
acting
says?
to me, yeah, I thought you were a boy, but it's messed up because the formatting, it like put in numbers on the website. The formatting on the
'cause
website isn't perfect.
mhm.
I had to
Yeah.
read it a couple times. Her first line was, I thought you were a boy. And she's surprised that it's a girl that she's picked up. So this is a girl who's been recently assaulted. And she's got bruises that she's covering up with makeup, which, again, I think is very interesting. We can talk about the metaphor and symbolism later. But this is a girl that's been recently assaulted. She's in this house by herself. Her parents are just gone. And we can assume they've been gone for a while because she just takes whatever car she wants and needs and just goes with it. And she is self-medicating through shopping. Now, there are two things that a lot of women go through right after assault. A lot of women either will have an aversion to being touched, or they will have like this need, like this instant craving to have some form of sexuality that's under their control.
Yeah.
And so for her to reach out to this girl this way, she's non-threatening. She's not going to take her up to the rocks and beat her up. But it's a form of control over her own body. And so that's what I saw in her. Like, she was reaching out. And at first, because I didn't know that she'd been assaulted, at first I thought maybe she was lesbian and she just had never had an opportunity. And so she was acting out in this way, which is also another common thing. But for me, the way she acted was very truthful to the way someone could act. There are many different responses you can have. And for her to all of a sudden latch on to this strange girl who is less threatening just seemed really realistic. You know, some girls, you know, they just shut down, but some they just go all out because they need that.
Don't you think it was a bit strange that she said, you know, the first words were, I thought you were a boy, but why was she stopping her car to pick up a male hitchhiker when she was, you know, she'd just been...
Like I said,
attacked?
perform some sort of sexuality, take control over her own body under her own choice. Now, it's a relief that it's a girl, but initially, she was just going to pick up whoever was there. You know, after you've been forced to have sex, choosing to have sex can be really nice medicine.
Okay.
No, I've definitely heard that. That it can go both ways, and like that's sort of a known thing. And so I agree. Like I agree from the beginning that Renee, I don't know if she's even consciously knows this is what she wants, but she's already on this course.
She's clueless.
Yeah, she's just on this course, which was actually I had a note where she leans on her in the country club, where I was like, is that flirting? Like I wasn't sure if she was flirting or not. You know, like
That's
like,
cute.
if it is flirting,
It's
Yeah,
really
I mean,
badly
later
done
when-
flirting.
exactly, like it's really badly done flirting, and I feel like how is Renee this socially inept? Like I thought she'd
But
have
that
a
would
little
work
more,
on a lot
you
of
know, skill.
guys. Like on a lot of older guys, that would totally work.
Yeah, it would work on
Yeah.
guys. It would. Because, you know.
No, I don't think
Yeah.
so. Not
I
at
think-
all.
I think
No.
Oh, Gerald, you protest too much.
I do. I always protest too much.
Yeah. I mean, I think later when she's like, I'm gonna go for a swim, so let me strip down to my underwear in front of you. Like that's obviously flirting, and you know, like that's and that made a lot more sense. But earlier,
That's funny because that's the time I actually didn't see it as flirting.
really,
Yeah, I didn't see that
guess-
flirting.
I did not see that as flirting at all.
Gerald, did you see it as flirting?
Yeah, I thought there was a lot of sort of sexual tension between them.
But at that moment when she took off her clothes to go take a swim, did you see that part as flirting?
Yeah.
See, I didn't. I saw that because right before that, she had been on the phone and she started crying. And this is a girl who isn't really being taken care of and she isn't being seen. No one knows what really happened. And she's covered the bruises with makeup. And her makeup is coming off. She's washed her face. So now she showed her bruises. And for me, her taking off the clothes was like a final step of finally someone can see me, and it reflected back to the camera and the symbolism of the camera and the symbolism of a camera seeing something, and that particular camera being a large format camera, seeing more than a normal camera would actually see. That was the symbolism I took from that. I didn't actually see that as flirting. I took that as, great, someone can finally see me.
But it can be both things. Yeah. I think it can be both things, though.
How flirtatious is it? Like, I'm covered in bruises. Ooh, look at my sexy body. Like that doesn't actually.
Yeah, I don't think it's flirtatious in like the kind of like PG kind of cutesy way. Maybe seductive is the better way to put it, rather than flirtatious.
Yeah.
I think she's consciously doing it. Like she's trying to get Jody to do something because that tension already has been built up. So maybe flirty's too cute of a word.
We're just going to have to agree to disagree, because I don't see that as sexual at all. She's covered in bruises and she's stripping down. If I'm covered in bruises and I'm trying to turn somebody on, I'm going to turn off the lights and I'm going to, like, orient myself so no one can see. Like, I'm not going to, like, stand in the light and take off all my clothes so you can see all of what's going on. What about you, Kenechi? Where do you fall on this?
I think I interpreted the story completely different to the rest of you, because the
Okay,
way
I really want to hear this.
Was because even when I say that she's lonely and she's looking for love, I don't mean since whatever happened to her with that boy. I mean like her whole life. Like, I think Renee is jealous of Jody and Jody is jealous of Renee, because Jody sees Renee and Jody sees money, whereas Renee sees Jody and she sees someone that has people that actually care about her. But then with Renee, it's like her whole life, people have just been ignoring her. Her family, they're never there. So she's just there by herself. And so I think her whole persona is just trying to get some kind of external validation, trying to get someone to be like, okay, you matter and I care about you. And I think that's why she got involved with that boy in the first place, who did have a girlfriend, but I don't think she knew that. And then I think after that experience, she kind of just was pushed over the edge in a sense, so that kind of triggered her week of not going to school and drinking and shopping and whatnot. And I think her whole relationship with Jody, I didn't see anything sexual in that. I just saw it as kind of, this girl's obviously skipped school, so she probably hasn't seen anyone for like 3 or 4 days. She's just shopping and doing things by herself. So she saw Jody, and then she kind of saw, okay, this is someone who's maybe has some things, like Anais said, she has something that she's going through that I can relate to. So I think it was just more of a companionship thing. She just didn't want to be alone. And I
find it interesting that even without the sexual subtext, you still have a very similar interpretation to both me and Gerald. I would even say Anais. Like, even without the sexual subtext, the story still stands on its own.
The first time I read it, I thought Jody thought Renee was attractive, but Renee was like 100% hetero, and it was only the second read through I was like, you know what, Renee may be willing to experiment right now because she's kind of looking for comfort in any way that it comes. I don't even think it's necessary. You know what I mean? So,
and that's the way I read it.
Yeah. Like, I don't think it's necessarily like I want a relationship with this person and continue it forever and ever. I think she's just sort of very opportunistically, because she's hurting and she's desperate, trying to make this thing happen. And what Kenechi said about her being very alone extends beyond the family, because she's reaching out to a complete stranger after this assault. She has no friends.
That tells you she has nobody. Yeah. And she's new to the area. I think she said that they just moved there.
Yeah.
They're in a gated community. She's in private schools and they're new to the area. That's just, and her parents aren't home. Yeah.
I was quite interested in Kenechi saying that when she saw Jody, she saw someone who had the things that she didn't, the love of someone. But I don't see that, because Jody doesn't know where she's going, or she doesn't tell Renee where she's going. Like, where do you want to go? And she said east. So there's no clues as to why Jody is making that trip.
Yeah, and she even asked, why did you leave home? Did something bad happen? For me, the part that made me think this was about her being seen and getting validation wasn't that, she had love, but that she had a capability of seeing because when she takes out the camera in the car and she checks it out to see if it's dry, that really seems to pique her interest. And she's like, well, what is that? Is that a camera? It doesn't look like a normal camera. Like, that's something that's really interesting to her. And after that point, the way she responds to her changes a little bit. I think that's the point where she's like, let's go someplace. I think for me, it was this is somebody who might be able to see me, and it was a metaphor. It doesn't necessarily have to make logical sense, but it makes metaphorical sense for me that that's where the attraction came from. And again, it carries in the symbolism of the camera throughout the actual story.
Yeah, because the camera doesn't feature that heavily actually in the story. It's
a symbol.
Yeah, it's mentioned initially as being there, and then she gets it out a couple of times during the story. But yeah, it is. I agree with you. It's definitely.
And she takes one picture. She does take a picture of Jody. And I like that when she's taking the picture, she can see the line of her foundation. Like, that to me was very revealing, and was a very powerful moment for me. How about you, Anais?
No, that's what I'm saying. There were some moments where I thought the writer was really, really effective with little clues like that. And for some reason, I also liked at the very beginning when she describes the Hasselblad as being angular and precious, like a mechanical heart, when she's pressing it up against her chest.
Yeah.
There were some moments where I really enjoyed the language. But I just wanted to build on what you were saying about using the Hasselblad as a way to be seen, to not be lonely metaphorically. And in a very literal sense, it's a conversation starter. It's her in. It's like, oh, I can talk about that. I can ask about that, and now I can start a conversation with this person and spend the day with him. So in a literal sense, it starts that connection.
And it would start a conversation. I actually became really good friends with a guy because he had one. They're really weird-looking cameras.
Yeah.
You cannot pull one out and not get a question about it. It's. Have you ever seen one?
I Google imaged it, yeah.
Yeah, they're square.
They're like square, and you look down, and they come out with the big, weird format pictures that are bigger, and they take in more area. They're amazing cameras. Oh, we lost Anais. She'll be back.
I think she's going to get a Hasselblad or something.
I wish. I drool after those cameras. I've always wanted one after I saw one the first time. They're just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I like. We used to have people take pictures of stuff we made in, a place I worked, and the guys who came in had big, large format cameras, and the pictures were beautiful. They took on it, absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, they did something back then that digital can't now. She's back now that we're all done shooting the.
I thought you were going to show us your Hasselblad, Anais.
No, I didn't realize my laptop wasn't plugged in. Like,
okay. So that's what it was.
Yeah,
that's really funny. So as far as, when we dig deeper into the story, how many of us read it more than once?
I've read it twice.
You read it twice. You read it twice. I was bad this week. I read it once. How about you? Did you read it once or twice?
I read it just the once. Just the once.
Okay, for the two of you that read it twice, how was the story different the second time you read it compared to the first time you read it? I'm curious.
There were more clues. I think the problem is that when I read it the first time, I was in a rush. I had a million other things to do, and I read it through. And I thought, oh yeah, it's this is the story. Da 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 da. But then when I read it the second time, I had a little more time, and it's like watching a TV program, like reading a book twice, because you pick up things the second time that you missed the first time, because you were in the story and looking forward to finding out what's happening, so that the second reading gives you that extra depth, and I think it also allows you to enjoy the quality of the writing more. You see more of what the author intended.
So you enjoyed the story more the second time around than you did the first time around. How about you, Anais?
Same. I think the first time I actually walked away with it. I walked away from it the ending was a little difficult for me because, like I said, the first time I read Renee as very sort of hetero and just wanting a friend. So then when it ends with Jody wading into the water about to like touch her in a way that's like more sexual, it's like, Jody, don't. You're getting mixed messages. Don't do it. But then the second time, I was like, oh, okay. I think Renee is probably a little more open to experimenting right now. She'd probably be okay with it. So I think I liked it a little bit better the second time, and I also saw a little bit more that Renee wasn't just the first time. Even though I understood that Renee was hurting, I still felt she was a little too aggressive in trying to force a friendship. And I think the second time it felt less aggressive. I think there was just more space between things happening for me that I felt like, okay, enough time has happened here, where maybe that's not as strange as the first time I read it around. And you know what? The second time I read it, I realized Jody might need the push. If Jody doesn't get the push, she's not going to do it anyway. She's very shy. So I definitely liked it. Second.
Kenechi, when you read it, how was it? Like, were you rushing? Were you able to sit down slowly? Like, in what conditions were you reading? I'm wondering how it changes.
No, I took my time. I mean, the
Me
thing is,
too.
when I first started reading it, I actually didn't even like it that much. But then it kind of drew me in after they started talking in the car, and it kind of drew me in. But I think right at the start, as you said, it was kind of overwritten. Like the first paragraph, maybe, it was just kind of like you're trying too hard. Like you haven't given me anything interesting yet, but you're writing, all this, flowery prose, and it's kind of like, yeah, can you get on with the story, please? So.
Well, what's funny is because I am notorious for putting up with a lot of flowery prose. Like, I am not one of these ask, don't tell type people. I will read some weird crap. But I'm right there with you. The first couple paragraphs, it was beautiful. There was some beautiful language, but the language either needed to be interspersed out the rest of it, or it needed to be taken out and made into a poem. Like, there was a lot of it was gorgeous, but every once in a while I was like, that was a little too much, that was a little too much. And then when the story got rolling and we really got to get to meet the characters, it totally drug me in. It was like a seduction, really. And by the end I was like all in the story. I read it very slowly, and I would say I enjoyed it a great deal. Now at the end of the story, I felt like it was missing something, and I think I figured out what it was. Anais, in your author spotlight, didn't you say that this short story was either part of or came into being because of the book that she wrote?
So she had written a book as a teenager that was about a teenager named Shadow who crossed the country to meet up with a girlfriend or something. So she's rewriting that novel now, or she just finished rewriting that into a novel. But as she was writing it, I think this short story kind of came out of that. I don't know if it's, they're
because I'm wondering if maybe the sense I'm getting that something's missing really is less of an issue with the story and more of an issue with the fact that the story really isn't a story, it's part of a story. Does that make any sense?
I kind of saw it like a snapshot. Like I saw.
Yeah, it felt like a snapshot. It felt like a snapshot. Well, yes, true. But when I was reading it, I tend to read short stories and expect a beginning, a middle, and an end. And when I was reading it, very much was a snapshot, which is fine, but it left me unfulfilled at the end of the story. But it left me intrigued to read the book. And I'm wondering if the reason why I had that weird, something's missing, I can't put my finger on it, was because, to me, it really was more of a snapshot rather than a short story. And so it really didn't have a satisfying conclusion.
Yeah, no, I'd agree.
Yeah, I think the ending was a little bit vague, a little bit up in the air, considering that the rest. I mean, I loved the opening. I loved the flowery prose.
So pretty.
And I was very happy with that. I could see the scene. I think it really set the story up really well. But the rest of the story is fairly sort of matter of fact. It kept kept rolling along, and but I just thought I would have liked some sort of conclusion to it at the end.
Which is funny because I love open-ended stuff. Did you see me censor myself?
Yeah, well done.
I'm trying. What I really like is the fact that we read this right after reading Alice Munro. Okay, because one of the things we're always told when we write short stories is smaller is better. It's take a small portion, don't try to do a whole novel. And Alice Munro, essentially did a whole novel in a short story, whereas this is the other, almost polar opposite of a snapshot blown up to a short story. And to see the difference and in feel and how that changes, my feelings about it. I wonder if I would feel different about reading this story if I hadn't read Alice Munro directly before.
I think
maybe I went into it expecting more complexity.
Yeah, and I think with Alice Munro, it did have that ending, that conclusion. It was a self-contained short story, and it had a start, middle, and end, very very clear and very distinct. I think.
But Circular Ruins did not have. Circular Ruins was very much amorphous. It was very much didn't really have a beginning, middle, and end per se. It was very circular. But that had the complexity, and I feel like this needed more complexity. And I feel like the complexity comes in the form of the novel. The novel probably has a lot more complexity. And what I appreciated about the story makes it really confusing for me, because there are parts of the story that I absolutely love, but it's missing something for me that did affect my enjoyment of the story, but did not affect my wanting to read more from the author. So rather than saying, "Oh, I didn't like the story, I don't want to read this anymore," it was like, I'm confused. I want to read more. That was the feeling I got.
Yeah, and I think your lack of your what you were saying about lack of complexity for me, the lack of complexity in Renee was something that I missed, because
that would have helped.
Yeah, because as I say, she was, to me, she was this sort of plastic cutout of a cardboard cutout of a rich girl with nothing, bored rich girl, and then it start, then you saw the sort of backstory for her that she was trying to cover up. But
what I
didn't. I just thought, that's her. There's I don't know. Her story, her character lacked something for me.
You know what I wonder? Because the author started bringing in this sense that there was something beneath her surface. And I wonder how that would have been if that had been brought in earlier. The stubble on her legs. Maybe if that had been brought in while we were in the car with her, maybe that would have helped make her less two-dimensional, less Barbie-like. I wanted to see that chip on the veneer a little earlier. I wondered if maybe that would have changed it for you.
I think so. It would have changed it for me, because then you would realise that there was a story underneath this veneer
earlier
that you saw. Yeah. Sorry, Anais, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. I was just, because when Maya was saying that it feels incomplete, like it didn't quite get to an ending, and then when you brought up the Circular Ruins, I think I realized it without putting too fine a point on it, I think what might be missing is there's a sense of a little bit of a so what to it. Because in the Circular Ruins, right, because in the Circular Ruins, at the end, he realizes he's also a dream. There's the point. We got to it. This one, I just feel like if the thing the author is trying to say right now, I didn't get it. That's the one thing. What's the message?
I would not have picked up on that until you said that, but you're right. Because if I were to go through any of the stories we've read so far, I could probably give you some lessons, some morals, some meaning behind the story. And this is a story that I'm struggling with to find that. I think it is about, fulfillment and need, but what it's saying about fulfillment and need, I'm not exactly sure. And I think that's why I'm frustrated, because I find the characters interesting. Even Renee, I actually do find her interesting after, her veneer started to get chipped. I found her interesting. I found the characters interesting. I liked the writing. There were parts that I probably would have edited down a little bit more, but I'm one that likes to have a lot of room between my words, you know? Not everybody's like that. And so to walk into the story that I'm actually enjoying and then walk away so unfulfilled is really confusing. And I feel like as a novel, I want to read this. Like, this is something that I want to pick up and read and will enjoy. It's something I identify with. There were times in my youth when, you know, very, very similar situations. And so I'm like, yeah, this is a novel I want to read, but I understand what you mean by the so what, you know, which is funny because I actually did a short story class where that was one of the things that was like one of the assignments was, why are you telling the story? There's no reason. The readers aren't going to enjoy it. At the end, they're going to be angry if they read something there was no reason for it. And now I get that.
Which is why I didn't like the circular rooms, because in the end it was all a dream. And I think, so what?
We are not going to go back there. We are not.
So I'm trying to exercise it out of my memory.
You're still frustrated with that conversation, aren't you?
Oh yes. Anyway, move on. I'm having therapy now. It's okay.
I'm actually kind of like the opposite, because I want to bring up that movie again, Waking Life, the one I brought up like 2 or 3 weeks ago. But there's a scene in the movie where this guy's in a cafe and he's writing a book, and a girl asks him, "Oh, what are you writing?" And he's like, "I'm writing a story." And she said, "What's it about?" And he said, "It's not about anything. It's just people." And I thought that was so cool, because it kind of like reminds me of this. It's like, this is not necessarily about anything specific. It's about these two people that are going through, like each one of them is going through something. And I think for me, the story was about Jodie. Like, she meets Renee, and immediately she has this idea about Renee, and she kind of writes her off as a rich girl, you know, no problem, she's got money, she's got nothing to worry about. But then I think as the story goes on, she starts to see all these little clues, and then by the end, she now realizes, oh, Renee's actually a real person. And I think for me, that was like, you guys are saying that there's missing a point, but I think that was the point, if to find one. The point where she really came to the realization that Renee is a person, and for her, the message would be to look closer, because I mean, spent time with this girl, but she didn't see that, and she probably may have been able to see it if she looked closer from the beginning, maybe. So.
And you know what? You're probably right. You're probably on the money. I think for me that probably didn't come through because I spotted those things about Renee really early, and it just, I don't know. Even if that was the meaning behind the story, it wasn't a meaning that I picked up as like meaningful as I was reading it. How about you, Anais?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm convinced that's the meaning behind the story. I mean, the meaning is anything you pull from it. But I guess what I'm saying is, for me, there aren't really enough clues to support that, because if that's the case, then we should be seeing Jodie trying to summarize that book by its cover, being like, oh, she's just another rich girl. Like, Jodie's never really doing that. Jodie's never trying to put her into the stereotype. The only thing she says is, oh, she has money, I could probably ask her for some money. That's it. Other than that,
yeah, I actually saw her as like the embodiment of her camera. She seemed like she had so little personality that at points I was getting the names mixed up, because she was very much like the omnipotent observer. You know, she was watching everything that was happening, and that was something that I really liked about her. But it also gave me distance to the story, gave me distance. And so I'm not really sure how she actually felt about Renee. Aside from, a little creeped out, because that would be totally normal. You're hitchhiking in this girl, that would be a little creepy.
Yeah, but we don't even know if she was creeped out. There's no reflection. Like, you never know really what's going on.
No, but there was hesitation.
Yeah, she was kind of hesitant towards her. And then when Renee put her hand on Jodie's shoulder, she was kind of like, "Can you get off me, please?"
Yeah,
so I was amazed. I was like, "Oh, she moves."
Yeah, she pulled an Anais. Get off me! Does anyone else have anything else that they want to say about the story?
Nope.
We're running at about 40 minutes. 45
Yeah,
minutes.
I was just having a quick look at the beginning of the story again, and there are no clues at the beginning, they're talking and going east, and Renee says, Jodie says thanks for picking me up, and Renee says it was nothing, I was bored, and so there's no clues as to anything wrong. There's nothing that Jodie sees to give her a clue. So I suppose that is the point of the story, that despite everything you see fulfilling one particular stereotype, you shouldn't judge that person by just what you see, and she did have this hidden story underneath her makeup.
Yeah, I guess I almost
You
don't,
still
don't
look
want it to be that.
unconvinced. You know,
Yeah, at this point,
when I look at the last line of the story, she wonders, would this girl Winston turn away, or would it be a colander of balm to be touched where it hurts? I'm almost wondering if that's actually the point of the story. If it really is just about human contact, being seen by another person, and feeling.
That's more convincing to me. Yeah, being seen, human contact. Don't judge a book by its cover. For me, there isn't enough clues for that. But it's beyond that. I don't want it to be that, because if the point of your story...
That would be a really...
we've been hearing that since we were toddlers. I don't want it to be that.
You want something more complex.
Yeah. I want it to be about connection.
That last line is the giveaway. I feel like that last line really is the giveaway, because it is something that is a theme throughout the story. It's just a very subtle theme.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Are we ready to rate?
I think we're ready for Bradberries.
This is going to be hard. It's going to be really hard.
I know, I'm really torn.
I am so torn, because it's like, love it, hate it, love it, missing, the writing, the something missing.
Actually, you saying that just helped me get to my Bradberries once and for all. I don't love it or hate it. And I'm not really torn between the two. I think I'm kind of down the middle. So out of 6,
that's what I was thinking. I was thinking 3.5.
Yeah, 3. Yeah. I don't love or hate it. I'm just kind of like, okay.
I want more.
Yeah, it's 3 for me too. It was good.
Oh, I figured you were going to go higher.
No. Kenechi's going to go higher.
What do you give it, Kenechi?
4.
Okay. I love that he loves a story that we're all conflicted about, and he hates the stories that we love. Yeah. That makes me really happy.
Kenechi and I were together.
I just love Kenechi.
He loves the story and he gives it 4. That's not very good.
Because I like the absence of like a narrative point sometimes, because that's life. Life is, you don't get given a meaning. You have to sit down and think, okay, is there a meaning to it? And I think with this story particularly as well, with like loneliness and like wanting to be seen, it's like at the end of it, like from Renee's perspective, like she doesn't know that this girl is going to mean anything to her, but she's going to try, so I think, and it's vice versa from Jodie's perspective as well. She doesn't know that anything's going to come from this relationship, but she's going to try. So that's kind of it's open-ended. There's no dot conclusion, which I think is reflective of how life is. That's why I kind of like things like this. So
you see, but you know what? I'm going to get this on a loop, and then we're going to have one of those stories that's just like one big, long literary wank fest with absolutely no point. And I'm going to play that back to you when you're talking about how much you hate this story because it means nothing and there's nothing happening.
Obviously, the story has to mean something, but I don't think it has to have a point, like,
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not the first time somebody's done something like that, where it's more of a portrait and less of a story. And if you're going to do that, I think the short story is the place to do it. Because if you did that for an entire novel, no. So if you're going to do that, I think a short story is a good place to do it.
Do you? Or do you think it's flash fiction's place?
Both. I mean, this didn't take up that much time. So let me put it this way. If this had been an entire novel dragged out, I would have walked away from it really annoyed. But I didn't walk away from this annoyed. I just kind of walked away a little bit like, okay. I just sort of...
less than 5,000 words, so it was, it was a pretty short story.
Yeah.
I think we all are really close, except Kenechi. Kenechi liked it more, but I think most of us liked it and felt like something was missing, and we're pretty torn about the story. I think that's really interesting. And then we've got our outlier.
Not that much of an outlier. You gave it a 3.5, and he gave it a 4. So.
Yeah. What I find interesting is when he likes a story, they get a 4. Yeah. he's a tough cookie. He's like, what is he's going to be like? This is the most genius thing I've ever read in my entire life. It's a 4.5.
He's very careful with his brown.
I'm like, I reserve the 6s.
He's stingy. He's going to read Shakespeare and give it a 5.
Not everyone loves Shakespeare.
No. Please, no.
Okay. So, are we going to do last week's Bradburys?
Yes. Last week we read Amundsen by Alice Munro, and the listeners gave it a 5. No,
really?
4. No, 4. Yeah.
Give it a 4. Still, that's great.
Yeah. I'm surprised, but you guys know how I felt.
Yeah, I know how you felt. We're just not going to talk about that. You realize that podcast was like an hour and 5 minutes long.
I know. That was my source of ruin.
Yeah.
So how are we going to figure out this week's story?
Okay. So I have an awesome game where you need to identify the word that ends in EO. So I'm going to give you a clue, and then you have to give me the word that ends in EO. So, for example, if I said Juliet's literary lover, you would say Romeo, because it ends in EO.
I'm so going to fail on this.
Well,
man. This is like Jeopardy.
Yes.
Put it in the form of a question. Mind freeze.
And I'm going to ask you each the question individually. So that way there's no lag, there's no cheating, there's no, I saw that because Google Hangouts.
You're going to,
And it's first strike, you're out.
You know that saying, it's better to have people think you're a fool than to open your mouth and verify it? Thanks, Anais. Thanks.
Serious.
Because putting things like in weird orders, like my ADD brain just like freezes and it's like a hiccup. Oh, this is gonna be bad.
You'll be fine. But
okay, well,
the game.
The story that I want to put into the pot is A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings by Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
I actually have that as well.
You're kidding me. Oh man,
I have it
I have to
because
find a different one.
No, that's not the story I'm going to put forward, but I have it written down. I had that, and I have another one as well. I have a list of stories.
It sounded like a story you would pick. It has like that Kenechi like title flair thing. You like flair titles with flair.
You two been colluding off air.
No, we haven't. I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, right. Yeah. Poddy man.
I'm an old lady. No colluding. Hi.
Good Lord. Well, I'm going old school. I'm going old school for my story. And
Hemingway?
No, I read other stuff.
I want to read some Hemingway.
Yeah, Hemingway's good. This is the Man of the Crowd by Edgar Allan Poe.
Ooh. Ooh. Can we rig it?
No, we can't rig it. But I didn't hear Kenechi's story. What's Kenechi going to put in?
My story is The Laughing Man by J.D. Salinger.
Ooh,
these are all good ones.
Yeah.
I am genuinely surprised it wasn't Murakami.
Yeah. There's a lot of good stories here. Can we just read them all?
Have a 3-hour podcast.
Great.
Yeah. I think we'd lose listeners.
You think?
Yeah, just a little.
Well, in the interest of keeping listeners, let's have you guys answer questions and then eventually get one wrong. So, because that's the way
you're hopeful.
Two of you have to. That's how the game ends. 2 of you have to be wrong, eventually. Okay, so Kenechi's going to get the first question. So remember, your answer One word, has to end in EO. Are you ready,
Is there a
Kenechi?
time limit, so can I just...
You can't Google.
Smell test. Whatever the judge decides, that's me. So
Okay, all right.
we're keeping it nice and easy the first round, so you can all at least claim one win. So, for example, something you can watch on YouTube is a...
Video.
Oh, I got that one.
video. There you go. Nice and easy.
Okay.
But at least now you know how the game's
Just three
played.
people.
Okay, Gerald.
Yep.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. A music playing sound system.
Stereo.
Yes, stereo. Woo. Okay. Maya. Maya looks so nervous. Don't cry. It's okay. It's a cookie brand. A cookie brand for black and white sandwich cookies.
Oh, Oreo. They told me
Oreo.
that all the time when I was little. Oh,
Well, you all passed round one.
that's like the one cookie brand I know.
Do we all
Okay,
get a prize?
Kenechi. There's no prize yet. Kenechi.
Shucks.
Each round gets a little harder. So, a brief appearance by a celebrity in a movie is a...
Cameo.
Yes. Gerald.
Yep.
A diet also known as the caveman diet.
Paleo.
Yep. Maya. It's a roundup featuring bull riding and other horse contests.
Rodeo.
Yes. Kenechi. The central figure of the Matrix movies.
Neo.
Yep. Gerald. The name of the son on The Cosby Show. You can almost guess because it has to be a name that ends in EO.
Don't know.
Well, just guess the name that ends in EO. You might look into it.
Yeah.
Nope. Nope.
You sure?
Yeah.
Do it. Oh.
What?
Do they not have the Cosby Show in the UK?
I've not watched it. No.
I didn't watch the Cosby Show, but I mean, if I had to guess, I would guess the most obvious name that ends in EO.
Leo?
Yeah, but I don't know. Is that right?
No, it's not your turn anyway, Kenechi. but
Now we
it's
all
Theo.
wanna know.
Sorry, Gerald.
It's
Theo.
What is it?
The name's Theo.
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 Oh, okay.
Theo.
Theo.
Yeah.
Oh, I would have guessed
Yeah,
Theo.
this is another name one.
Right. I'm
Round
going.
3 is all names. Maya, we were earlier talking about Disney. You gotta tune into those Disney movies for this one. Focus. Because Pinocchio's goldfish. What's the
I
name of
almost
Pinocchio's
dropped that
goldfish?
word.
Goldfish.
Those goldfish?
There's a
Never had
goldfish
goldfish.
in Pinocchio.
Pinocchio's goldfish? Had a name?
I have the second clue, if that one's too hard for the same word.
Leo? That's the only EO name I can think of.
Oh, Cleo. My second clue is going to be like, you're a Libra. For Miss
Oh,
Cleo.
like that lady who's going
lady.
to tell you a future on late night
Oh,
TV. You're so bad.
Well, that means that Kenechi won.
Yay!
Yay!
Well done.
Finally! Were you getting worried?
No, not at all. Okay.
So the name of the story is again?
The name of the story is The Laughing Man by J.D. Salinger. And I guess that's the end of the show. So for show notes and to join the discussion, visit literaryroadhouse.com. You will also find all of our social media links on the site. While you're at it, like our Facebook page and even iTunes review. It helps us a lot. Don't forget to tell your friends. And until next time, read a good story.
I think that went really well. Ciao, people.
Yeah.